Welcome everybody and good day. My name is Eric Wildermuth with Servion, and thanks so much for joining our webinar. We've got a great session planned today with John Arnold and Ted Phipps, both recognized leaders in the customer experience space, and at the end, also a fun cocktail making session. Our topic today is driving digital transformation with Cisco Webex Contact Center and Webex Calling. I know it's a topic that a lot of executives are talking about today. Next slide. So our agenda is we're going to start out with a fireside chat with John and Ted. We hope to keep this a very interactive session, so please feel free to ask questions in the chat window. But some of the topics that John and Ted are going to touch on are key trends and drivers for digital transformation. Another topic they're going to touch on is how do you meet the rising customer expectations or the CX gap? As we know, customers continue to have more and more demanding expectations on how they want to work with organizations. The next topic we're going to talk about is strategies to overcome CX challenges. And then the last topic is understand and deliver better with Cisco's collaboration portfolio. After the fireside chat, we're going to have a demo, which I always find very helpful. We're going to get to see the Cisco Webex Contact Center solution in action. And then after that, we'll have the cocktail making session. Before we jump into it, just a few house rules. All the participants are going to be on mute, but please feel free to ask any questions in the chat window on the right side. You'll also be receiving a survey and a complete recording of the session after it's completed. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce our guest speakers, John and Ted. As I mentioned in the beginning, we are very fortunate to have two industry leaders as part of this webinar. Our first guest is John Arnold. John is a principal of J. Arnold and Associates, an independent analyst providing thought leadership and go-to-market counsel with a focus around digital transformations. He brings over 20 years of experience consulting around digital transformations for organizations and is really recognized as a thought leader who is regularly published in publications such as BC Strategies and No Jitter. And Ted brings a wealth of knowledge around innovative thinking for collaboration within an organization. He has a deep expertise in driving product strategy and software development within the contact center space. He's also spent over 20 years with Cisco strategizing, building, and handling product management for numerous contact center products at Cisco. So with that being said, I'd like to hand it over to you, John.
Great. Okay, thank you, Eric, and welcome everybody. We're very happy to have you here on this webinar, and we've been preparing some pretty, I think, highly focused messaging for today's session. So I'm going to start with some of the kind of industry level perspectives that I see as an analyst. So I'm not here to talk about vendors. I'm not here to talk about channel partners in particular. I'm really here to talk about what's happening in the marketplace, and really for everyone here today to connect some of the dots, right, between where we've been, what's happening today, and what is this digital CX term that we're hearing so much about. So like every other area of technology, there's a constant set of evolutionary forces going on, right? So for anyone who's been in the contact center space knows that we started out in what I would call a telephony-centric model. Remember when it used to be called the call center, right? Because almost all interactions were done over the telephone. And then as contact centers kind of tried to keep pace with what was happening, we saw other channels come into the picture. And now we've got what we call the multi-channel environment, where customer interactions have gone beyond telephony to include email, of course, conventional forms like snail mail and fax, which, believe it or not, are still widely used. But more importantly, this evolution of getting beyond just having more than one channel, which we call multi-channel, to a world that is now embracing the newer channels, which are really digital in nature. So we started out with a telephony-centric world that was essentially analog, and this broader trend of digital transformation has impacted contact center like every other sector of the economy, where now digital channels are playing a bigger role in not just how we communicate with customers, right, but also how we do things, how we share information. Until data is in a digital format, it's hard to get the full utility out of whatever it is. It could be CRM is a great example here, but the point is that we've evolved to a model where digital channels are playing a bigger part how we engage with customers. And by digital channels, I mean social media, I mean chat, I mean video, I mean SMS, And the growing role of social media platforms as channels of engagement with the customer creates a lot of challenges for the contact center, but it's very much part of what this evolution is bringing to the contact center space today. So with that, let's Selva, go to the next slide, please. So digital CX is this idea about, we have way too many acronyms in this space, as we know, but CX, of course, is what we call customer experience. And it is a form of evolution itself, where we used to just talk about customer service. How do we serve the customer, generally in a telephone-based interaction? That did the job for a long time, but customers interact in many other ways now and have higher expectations. That's what this slide here is about. And it's giving rise to what I've long been calling the CX gap. In other words, what customers are looking for and what contact centers are both willing and able to deliver aren't on the same page. Why is this happening and what is it? So let me just walk you through some of these bullet points here to give you that picture. So first of all, today's customers are digital first. Contact centers are typically still tied to those legacy prem-based systems that are so, really well established and deeply entrenched network-wise, that they are still kind of the dominant mode of how we handle customer interactions. But customers, and they're trending younger in age, of course, so we're getting this demographic shift, right, towards millennials, Gen Zs, right, people who are totally from the internet generation. They expect digital CX because it's just like everything else. The way they experience the world now is generally through screens and some form of digital channel and digital communication. So really for them, why should customer service be any different? So that's what they're looking for. And because of that, customers have a sense of empowerment now, because in a sense they control a lot of the experience, because in many cases they're using tools that are very native to them but are still new and kind of unfamiliar for a lot of contact center agents. So they expect more now, and as a result, this sense of empowerment means if your contact center cannot provide what they are expecting, the consequences can be pretty severe. Not just because a session doesn't go well and the customer gets a little ticked off. Sure, that's going to happen, but more importantly, those same digital channels they're using to engage with you are being used to broadcast things that they want to share with their communities. And generally speaking, bad news is what they're going to broadcast. They don't really talk about, oh, I just had a wonderful customer experience, I'm going to share that on TikTok with a little video. That's not it. No, it's the bad news, and it tends to travel fast. And once it's in their hands, beyond your control, you've got a problem on your hands. So the stakes are higher. Forget about the fact that bad CX will generally lead to, obviously, higher turnover of customers, less share of wallet, all that stuff, which has real financial implications. Now you're talking about things that hurt your brand. This makes this a broader conversation. Related to this, of course, is the pandemic that we've been living the past few years, where every contact center will tell you their volumes went through the roof when people had to be stuck at home, couldn't shop in their stores that they were so familiar with, new ways of doing business, better opportunities for e-commerce, but that was still new for a lot of companies, especially to support with customer service. So we have this compounded by what we have known as the Great Resignation, where contact center in particular has been badly impacted in terms of turnover of agents moving on to do other things. So you've got two things going on through the pandemic: higher call volumes that somehow need to be managed, and fewer agents available to do the job. And even if you go looking to hire new agents, guess what? They're getting hard to find. So you've got this kind of double whammy happening in context of these higher customer expectations. You can see why there's a gap here, right? Okay, so let's move on. I'm sure you can imagine many scenarios that are affecting your business today for these reasons. All right, let's go to the next one. So not only do we have a gap, we've got a gap that is persisting and is only going to get worse unless contact centers not just adopt new technologies, and I think, Ted, you're going to have a lot to say about that, but there's more to it. This isn't just a technology problem. So first off, as I've established, contact centers aren't really capable with their existing solutions and platforms to add digital channels to the mix. It's not a simple thing of just turning on a switch and, oh, let's add Facebook to our channels, or let's just add SMS to our channels. More advanced contact centers can do that, but a lot of them cannot. So even if you wanted to go down this path, you're going to have some limitations. Then, presuming you're ready to handle these channels, your agents may not have the proper skill set. It's not a mystery as to why a lot of contact centers have agents that only handle voice and other types of agents that are trained specifically to handle chat, messaging, the text-based channels. Different ways of engaging with customers, different sensitivities that you need in terms of what you say, how you say it. Because again, we're not just talking about, hello, how can I help you today? But every move you make as an agent also has to kind of reflect the brand, the story of the company that's behind the products these customers are using, because now your engagement with customers is more than just solving a problem. You're representing what that company stands for. And in this day and age, that's important to millennials. They value that as much as the products they're buying from the company. So this speaks to the third bullet here, which is this idea of having a customer-centric culture. This has nothing to do with technology. Some companies embrace this and make everything in their business, what they do, how they do it, all about the customer. Those companies tend to do very well. You can point to lots of studies that will show companies that are customer first, customer centric, tend to outperform in terms of growth, profitability, retention, satisfaction, than companies that do not. The old school model of running a contact center that is very much about operational metrics, right? That's internally focused rather than externally focused. They do a great job hitting those numbers, but they're not necessarily things that impact customer satisfaction and ultimately customer experience. So there's a shift that's going to be needed, and we'll talk more about that later, right? What does it take to properly support DX? As I said, it's more than just a technology thing. It's also how you approach, what are your values? How do you engage with customers with the right messaging? So that's that. But the last point here is, yes, there is a technology piece to this, obviously. That's why we're here today. But these types of contact centers, this type of a gap that we're talking about, is also addressed by the tools, right? How do you track the customer journey? Not just those phone calls and text messages with customers, but there's a whole journey behind every customer interaction. And beyond that, how do you orchestrate the workflows so agents can get the information they need at the right place in the right way at the right time to address those customer issues? So again, this is more than just picking up the phone. How can I help you? Okay, thanks, Selva. Let's go to the next one now, please. And Ted, you're going to weigh in here in a moment as well. So I know you're chomping at the bit here to jump in. So this kind of sets the stage for where we're going to go in the rest of this session today. So there are internally adoption challenges to support digital CX. Again, this is more than just flipping a switch and saying, okay, I've got CCAS now, problem solved. First, you've got to recognize there's a problem. And that is that your legacy systems, to whatever extent you're still using them, can't get you to where you need to go, right? There's a modernization need here, but if the contact center decision makers don't view this as a big problem, we're not going to get to first base. So first, you've got to recognize that there are limitations to meet the needs of today's digital CX. Secondly, because most conventional contact centers are still premises based, right? There is still a lack of understanding about the cloud and CCaaS, right? Contact center as a service, how this new way of supporting customers and contact centers can be deployed. Because this is really the key. You can't get to digital CX unless you have digital contact center capabilities. There's also, aside from being customer centric, as I've talked about earlier, right, there's also a silo-based thinking within organizations, right, about how CX is basically just the contact center's problem. And the key here is that digital CX requires data points and information and histories that aren't just in one place. And many organizations tend to be very silo-based. And the key here is knowing that different silos have different kinds of information. You've got to get beyond that to say, hey, all of these pieces need to come into play here to do digital CX. So that's another adoption challenge. If it's too hard to bring all those pieces together, you're going to have a hard time delivering digital CX. And then finally, yeah, the technologies are out there. Like lots of contact centers have made this migration. They're having wonderful success you know, transferring from an analog to a digital world, to a prem-based, to a cloud-based. But it's also more than just the technology. It's also the partner, right? It's that particular vendor. It might be your incumbent vendor. It might not be. But they've got to be the right ones who can bring you along, because now you're going on a cloud migration journey, right? To get to digital CX. And that's where that partner fit really comes into play. All right, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ted in a moment here. So thinking about what you got to do, now I'm laying out kind of the reality. How are you going to overcome these challenges? So I'm going to leave you with 5 things, and this will kind of seed our fireside chat conversation. So first of all, decision makers within the contact center have to think about broadening the stakeholders within the organization beyond contact center, right? This is a business decision, and that's bigger than just a contact center decision. Those stakeholders, you got to think about how to educate them. Again, I talked about those silos, right? If they're not thinking about being customer centric, it's going to be hard to get their buy-in to do these things, right? You got to work backwards from saying happy customer, happy agents, happy business decisions, right? You're going to be doing the right things when you work backwards from that. Also, this idea of mapping the customer journey, why it's so important. People have to understand this, because what you really want to do is shift from providing reactive service, right? How can I help you, to proactive forms of service. That's what moves the needle for customer satisfaction now. When you can come to the customer, give them an effortless experience, and along the way provide value for things that they weren't even thinking about, that shows that you understand them and you actually have answers, solutions. And then also you build on these things, you're talking about building a complete business case that goes beyond the contact center for providing value, right? And you got to have a sense of urgency, because this CX gap that we've talked about, when people understand that it's happening, it's only going to get worse, that creates some urgency around how do we fix this, right? There's value to having a good CX and tremendous pain from a bad CX situation. So now we have to talk about presenting the complete solution to decision makers and influencers in your organizations, right? How can you bring all of this together? I mentioned orchestration earlier. Well, that just doesn't come from you. You've got to have the right technology partners who know how to do that, not just to pull it all together, but with minimal disruption to your operations, and of course to minimize the risk of adopting new technologies, because all new technologies come with some level of risk. Okay, Ted, I think I've given a lot of talking points here for conversation with us now and then later for the Q&A. So maybe before you head into the vision there, Ted, I'll turn it over to you now. Maybe add some of your thoughts to what we've been just sharing.
Yeah, John, I think you're spot on when you go through some of the challenges and some of the opportunities. When you're talking about digital channels, I mean, contact center was already complicated enough. Now, when you throw in the choice of channels, it makes the entire operation more complicated, but it also presents a lot of opportunity. So we certainly know, like you highlighted, that different demographics might choose different channels, just based off their preference and what they're used to. At the same time, there's always the element of, well, what's the right channel for the right solution, right? So there's definitely times when I prefer to use a digital channel. It means that I can get service 24 hours a day. I can do it while I'm multitasking or something like that. And then there's other times when the nature of the issue is such that I want to talk to somebody. So offering choice, knowing the best way to on which channel to use in whatever situation is really important. And really, that's what delivers. That's really going to drive that next level of customer experience. Is using each of the channels for what they're best at. And then, like you also mentioned, John, using them not just in a reactive way, but also in a proactive way. How can a contact center have the right set of data pulled from all different data sources to be able to proactively reach out to a consumer and let them know a valuable piece of information? and then use that to improve the overall care. So there's so many exciting vectors to that within our space, and I guess the other thing is, like you mentioned, the choice of partner that to guide a customer through that journey is important. Servion's been a great partner of Cisco for a number of years, knows our contact center products intimately. So it's good to see them really at the forefront of everything that within this CX space, and also within as being a good partner of ours within Cisco's cloud contact center journey.
I should also mention, Ted, by the way, thanks for bringing up the reactive proactive thing. I just wanted to mention quickly, I've only been referring to that proactive model as, for inbound inquiries. When you layer outbound on top of that, when you have the tools, which you've got to have these digital platforms to do that. When you have outbound messaging and interaction with customers, that opens up all kinds of new possibilities, right? For, anticipating needs, reminding customers, that outreach that isn't intrusive and just a sales pitch. Customers like that. When you give them relevant updates, that shows that you're paying attention. That can really move the needle on CX as well.
Yeah, and it goes exactly to what you were talking about, John, about like the success of these projects is dependent on bringing all the relevant teams together. So what's happening in the retail store, what's happening within the mobile app, what do we know about that customer? There's all kinds of constituencies that own that data, that have that data, that can participate in improving customer care. So the contact center is the way in which it all kind of culminates into either a good or bad customer experience. So, if we look at on what Cisco is, what we're trying to do, we're trying to deliver the best customer care experience we can. And like John talked about, right, we're trying, we are looking at this through the holistic journey. So, all of us as consumers in our personal lives, we are evaluating products or services. We are using the web. We're using mobile apps to evaluate our options. We make purchasing decisions. After we make a purchasing decision, that's when we enter kind of into a service life cycle, where we're either adding on to the products or services that we're using. We're reaching out to contact center for assistance across all different channels. And then we're providing tools to allow us to analyze each of these customer service interactions and then use them to improve retention, right? We want to be able to make it very easy for customers to reach out to the contact center, get the information they need in the most effective and efficient manner possible, and then use data to be able to improve the care holistically for the contact center or for the company, but also use that data to be able to retain customers and give them that proactive information that they need. I don't know how many times when I want something I reach out to a contact center and then I have to wait to see on my bill whether the change that I was requesting went through or not. The fact that we can use data to then maybe send a follow-up SMS or a Facebook message or something like that to that customer to let them know the status of their item, lots of times is the difference between better customer service or not, or whether it be a repeat caller or not. So we are focused on all elements of this journey, through the various products we have within the context, within all the facets of our Webex Contact Center product. So if we go to the next slide, if we look at what the Webex Contact Center brings to the table, for any of you who are not familiar, this is our Contact Center as a Service, multi-tenant, public cloud contact center. This is our flagship product within our contact center space. Within this product line, there are several differentiating capabilities that I think as we look into the long term, these are the capabilities that are going to really drive a lot of value and allow us to stand out from the very crowded space of a cloud-based contact center. When you look at digital leadership, 2 years ago we acquired a company called IMI Mobile. That's now been rebranded to Webex Connect. As part of Webex Connect, there are over 12 digital channels that are part of our part of our platform. So we have a very, powerful kind of scripting communication platform as a service solution that's part of Webex Contact Center. We use it for self-service. We can use it for agent assistance, so we can route those digital channels to those agents. But the fact that these digital channels are part of the Cisco stack, this communication platform as a service is part of the Cisco stack, means we can address much larger use cases than just what happens within the contact center. We can address more broader customer experience use cases and use the contact center as a way to kind of tying them together. So, for right now, we have digital capabilities built into the product, but over time, look to see us continue to add to the portfolio and really be able to use the real power of Webex Connect to really be able to provide differentiating care. Over the past few years, Cisco's acquired $2.5 billion worth of AI technology. That AI team right now is focused heavily on contact center use cases, including conversational IVR, agent augmentation. We spend a lot of time talking about agent augmentation, but supervisor augmentation, right? Out of all the agents that a supervisor could be monitoring right now, which is the best one to monitor? So helping agents, using AI to help agents, using AI to help supervisors. We're also in the process right now of integrating Babel Labs. Babel Labs is noise cancellation. So if your dog is barking, the vacuum cleaner is going, the other people on the WebEx meeting are not going to hear that noise. It gets canceled out. We're using that exact same technology within the contact center to cancel out any background noise that either the agent or the consumer on the phone has. So we spend a lot of time talking about digital capabilities, but there's a lot of differentiation, a lot of exciting capabilities coming even within the voice front. On the analytics front, we're right now in early trials for our Journey Data Service, which allows us to stitch all the different data points that a given customer has with a brand and use that to provide better care. What I'm really excited about here is the fact that we're building this on the Webex Analytics platform. So right now within Webex, you have meeting insights and employee insights. Now we're adding in customer insights as well. So using all the big data technologies within Webex to be able to use that data to provide better care for the contact center. And then underpinning all of this is a number of elements within the Webex platform. We're in the process right now of integrating the Webex Contact Center administration into Webex Control Hub. We align from a security and go-to-market perspective with the Webex as well. So all of these capabilities, when you look at them holistically, these are going to be capabilities that really drive the next level of innovation for not just Webex Contact Center, but for the industry as a whole. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Carlos to lead us on a demo of what we've built with Webex Contact Center.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Carlos Guardemus here, Business Development Manager. I'm part of the Cisco Contact Center BU. And today we're going to be looking at a Webex Contact Center demonstration. Now, my demonstration is going to take us through a customer scenario, and I want to start out with digital. I know John and Ted, they said a lot about proactive. I heard it quite often. I wasn't counting, but it was mentioned quite often, and that's what I want to start out with today. So we're going to start out with a proactive message coming out to a customer. And when we look at this proactive message, I want you all to keep in mind that you can do this with Webex Contact Center. You have the ability to build out flows. And what we're really doing here is we're reaching out to our customers and meeting them exactly where they are. So I'm in my office, right? And that's where I'd receive the text. I may be out and about. I may be doing errands. But the benefit of this is that I'm receiving information. And not only am I receiving this information, but I'm given the access to self-serve. Why is that beneficial? It's beneficial because for me, it's a better experience. I can take care of the business I need to here. I don't have to call in, right? And the company does not need to be reactive to my ask. So I can kick off a self-service sort of scenario here. Well, I'll just say hello and kick it off. Keep in mind, one of the slides there did mention that we do have a native chatbot integration. So if you have some FAQs, a database that's built out there, you can import that database into our flow builder so that your customers can access that information and ask those questions. It lets them access it 24/7. So the contact center may not even be up, but the chatbot will be. Now we also have the notion of a task bot. A task bot can go above and beyond simply answering FAQs. It can perform tasks. And one of those tasks in my scenario is scheduling an appointment. So I'll just say, need to schedule an appointment. So that goes back to the bot. The bot's going to go look up in the database, say, okay, and Mia Iris is my daughter, by the way. Soon she'll be going to school, but it looks like she already has an appointment, right? In this case, I'm just going to say I need to reschedule. That's no longer going to work. I think I'm going to have to type all that out. Thank you, iPhone. So when I come back to the reschedule, now we're going to go through a slot filling process. Slot filling is something that you're typically going to see a lot with a task-oriented bot. And I'm just going to say Friday. That's always a good day. And then it's going to say, okay, what time do you need to do this at? And at this point, I'm going to say, oh, okay, let's pick 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. 2 p.m. works for me. I'm happy. I've rescheduled my appointment. I don't need to call in. Fantastic, right? But keep in mind, we're human beings. We're quite complex creatures. And because we're pretty complex, we typically run into complex problems. For example, I have a copayment of $35. That seems like $20 more than what I'm used to. I need to speak with someone about it, right? Let's give the opportunity to customers to escalate if we need to do that. So now we're going to switch from just going self-service and get into what's now referred to as the contact center. And then this is going to now be routed into the contact center. So let's all become contact center agents. Okay, so this is the Webex Contact Center Agent Desktop. I'll have you note that I'm using a web browser. I'm working from home. Because I'm using that web browser, I could also be working at work. I could be down at the coffee shop. In addition to that, we are endpoint agnostic, meaning that my phone, well, that could be a Webex calling device. It could be me answering my phone from here, logging in with my mobile phone. Really, it's up to you to determine how you want your agents to be answering the phone. The desktop itself, completely customizable. You can configure to meet the needs of your business and each of the needs of the various businesses within your organization. So if you needed certain screen pops to occur with different departments and you just needed to occur on that department, no problem. This is what you can do with this desktop here. Now I haven't received that interaction yet because I've been on break for 6 minutes. As soon as I go to available, here comes that inbound SMS text message. Now what's relevant for me, the agent? The most relevant thing is understanding where has this conversation been? So I get some insights on what has been happening in self-service. I see that they're scheduling an appointment. That's great. And there's a $35 copayment. Looks like they want to speak to an agent after that. We want to make the lives of these agents easier, right? We want to not only have a intuitive user interface, we want to give them the ability to quickly respond to messages, right? It also gives a consistent message across the entire organization. So responses are being said amongst all of your agents. It's not a different response for every single person, right? It's brand consistency. That's what we're trying to drive here. Now, I could go and do things like share emojis, right? That's a younger demographic. They're going to be a lot more responsive to happy faces and thumbs up and okays and whatnot. Over here on my right-hand side is the customer experience journey. Now, this is the first iteration of the journey. It's going to get a lot more complex than this. We're going to pull in the contact history. We're going to pull in any events that are happening within this customer's journey, whether that's a visit to the website, that's an announcement of a resubscription, whatever the use case may be. As long as we can make an API call to get that information, we can publish it here. In this iteration, I'm only looking at surveys given back to me. So I could see this customer reached out and said the contact us page was really hard to find. The website takes too long to load. So I could experience some frustration. This is key. It's key because what we can do from this point is understand the customer situation and help drive empathy. Oh, I'm sorry you're having real struggles with the website. How can I help you out today, right? We can do things like that from this desktop. There's a little bit more than that. You'll notice here as I click on this WebEx button, I get a WebEx window that opens up here. This is going to be my ability as a contact center agent to reach out deeper into my organization. So going above and beyond just the contact center group and reaching out to subject matter experts. Perhaps I need to speak to a loan advisor. Perhaps I just need to speak to a product support specialist that only knows this product to the very best of their ability, and they have the answer that I need. I can do that. WebEx is actually built into the entire agent desktop here. It makes statistics like first call resolution improved drastically because now I can reach out to those individuals that are looking for those particular answers and solve them almost immediately. I'm going to go ahead and just end this interaction. I'm going to mark it with a wrap up reason, and I'm going to go back to being on break because there's more I want to show you guys. Let's go into another customer scenario. And in this customer scenario, they want to use additional digital channels. I want each and every one of you on this call to note that we have a rich set of APIs available, which has allowed me to build out this contact us widget. It allows me to email, send a text, perform a callback, or figure out what is the wait time for a particular, and there's no wait time, right? So I'm able to make these API calls. So not only do you get an application that you can use right out the box and customize to your liking, you also get a platform that you can use to develop any APIs that you require necessary to make your integration make sense for yourself and the business. Okay, so I can do things like perform a callback, and I'll get a callback in approximately 0 minutes. So anytime now, I should be receiving a call on my phone. And while we wait for that phone call to come, oh, the reason phone call didn't come in is because my agent's not available. And as that happens, here comes that callback. And now the callback is strictly API. Okay, so I built that just with APIs, ladies and gentlemen. And now I'm connected. I'm on a call. I perform the callback. I know who this customer is, what reason it was, and continue on in their customer journey from this point. Okay, so that's a call to the APIs. If you'd like to learn more about our APIs, don't hesitate to take a screenshot here. I'll call it out, developer.webex-cx.com. As I mentioned, there's a rich set of APIs here. So if I come into documentation, we have overviews. If I come into some of these, you'll notice here we have sample code, and as well as the ability to go out and try these out if I needed to do so, right? So really, really cool for those people that are looking to get into development and want to expand upon the use cases that they have available today in their contact centers. I'll go ahead and end that interaction, and I'm going to take us home with some reporting. I know that many of you may be on Cisco legacy platforms. Maybe some of you are on CCX today. And one of the most important and vital pieces of information that you get from that platform is your reporting. You live and die by your reporting. So I can come in here. I'm now in the analyzer screen here. And in this screen, this is the reporting that we use for Webex Contact Center. So if I come here to visualization, double click into stock reports, you'll notice we have a new folder here for transition reports. What did we do? Well, we got feedback from the field. And that feedback let us know what were some of the most used and most requested reports that are coming from customers like yourselves today. And so in this instance, we pulled over the top 9, interesting number, but we pulled in the top 9 and we're able to run these reports directly from this dashboard here. Okay, so your reporting is going to be available to you. And if I take us back to where we originally started, we could do the proactive notifications. We could do that over SMS. We can do that through apps. But keep in mind, what we're trying to do is provide better customer experiences, start to finish. And what better a partner to work with than a group such as Servion. So with that, I'm going to pass it back over to the Servion team to get us into the mixology session. And thank you so much.